Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Apollo's Odyssey. Today, I have a very special guest, Jim Goodall. Jim is an aviation and science writer of over 20 books. He is the former Associate Curator of Pacific Aviation Museum, Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and was associated with the Museum of Flight in Seattle, Washington as a restoration manager on the MoFs. I don't know what this is. And Jim Goodall served in the U.S. Air Force from 1962 to 1977. In 1994, Jim Goodall spoke at the Exploring Unexplained Phenomena 5 conference in Lincoln, Nebraska. Also, Jim Goodall was a friend of Ben Rich, the former president of Lockheed Skunk Works, and Mr. Goodall says he and Rich spoke at least once over a quarter for a bit over 25 years. Among the many friends and colleagues of Jim Goodall are Bob Lazar and Lear. So Jim, and also he's the author of several books, and today is the launch of his new book, so we're going to talk about that on here. He's just getting his an update on his computer right now, so I'm just waiting for him to come in. So if anyone has any questions, anything about the show to pass the time till he's able to get on here, just let me know. And, just hanging out till then. So, so I actually met Jim speaking at Disclosure Con in Arizona. Doc Skinner invited us, or introduced us, and he's a very interesting guy. And what's interesting is he actually gave me this awesome book that he wrote about the SR-71 Blackbird. He actually gave this to me right before I went to Area 51 over the summer. I don't know if any of you have seen my Area 51 show on here. That's like kind of the main one at the top. But that was kind of like a funny, like a mockumentary type thing. But I actually went to Area 51. My reports for that are on third phase of Moon. I went to the back gate. But Jim actually happened to give me this book right before I went. And this is about the spy planes, the Mach 3 spy plane. And there's a really amazing image of all the spy planes lined up on the strip of Area 51. So I didn't even really have a whole lot of time to look through it. So I just brought it with me on the road trip. And at one point I was looking and this came up, this image right here. This book is just filled with so many amazing images, but this is all the Blackbird spy planes lined up on the strip at Area 51. And this was on January 24th, 1964. This is the aircraft they had at Area 51 in 1964. So imagine what they have now. Very interesting. Someone said, Shane Reed says, why did you decide to buy a green Jeep? Just curious, from Denver. Well, an interesting story, actually. That particular color for me is very special to me. For anyone who doesn't know, I have a bright neon green Jeep, and I have a little alien head on the side. And I've been I actually drove it to Area 51, so that's in the mockumentary I just mentioned here. But so first of all, I have an interesting thing with that color, and that's because my first ever spy experience, why did I just say spy? I have like these spy planes on the mind. But my first ever UFO experience was with this lime green ball of light that just kind of came down to me in the middle of the desert. And it was this bright, glowing, neon lime green ball of light. And it just like shot down and it hovered like eye level with me. And it was like it wanted me to see it, and it saw me. I don't know. And from what I heard, I actually did an amazing interview with Michael Lee Hill, our last interview together, which was a couple weeks ago, we talk about orbs, and he actually explained to me that there has been a lot of research on these orbs, and what's fascinating about them is they've actually made up the crop circles, or they've been found creating crop circles. But what's interesting is apparently that's how certain entities can come here interdimensionally. Instead of like having to be in like a physical form, they can just come in this like orb form. So that is my first orb experience. But what's interesting is I actually had tons of experiences with this like lime green light before, and I always loved that color. It's like this like neon green color. And I had a couple experiences with it before in different ways besides that, and I kind of realized it after that experience. And what's also amazing is that I paint crop circles on all my spears, and I was already making my spears at that point. I had just made like my first spear, and a little after that experience, I started painting crop circles on my spear, and it took me a while to realize that actually crop circles are what have been, orbs are what have been found to create crop circles. So I don't know if I got some kind of download from it. So that's really interesting. But I'm just laughing at a comment here. By the way, I have 2 spears up on my store right now, www.shamanspears.com. So make sure you go check them out. I actually had run out of spears. I sold out of my entire Pantheon collection. So I just kind of revamped a couple of spears I've just like had for a long time that were kind of more personal spears of mine. I wasn't getting rid of these particular spears because this one was charged by the founder of Quantum Touch, Richard Gordon, and I'm actually a certified Quantum Touch energy healer myself. And this one right here is my USA Shaman Spear, my Patriot Shaman Spear, that I have actually had at several Patriot events I probably had this for like 4 years or something. And I actually had this one signed by Tucker Carlson a few years back. I know some people on here might not like him. I'm not into mainstream media at all, but I think he's freaking hilarious, and he just like really, I don't know, just his facial expressions, and like he's one of the first one. He's like the only mainstream media person that's really like come out about like investigating UFOs. So I do respect that. So I had him. It was actually very interesting, him signing my spear. It was funny. There's like a whole line of autographs, and I came up and I'm just holding my spear, and he like looks at me, and you know how he has those funny facial expressions. Yeah, I actually have the photos. It's one of the last photos. If you look at one of the last photos of, you know, this on my shop, there's actually the photos of his facial expression when I handed it to him to sign it. It's pretty funny. The spear actually looks a little different in the picture because, like I said, I just revamped it. It was kind of damaged from being in all the rallies and everything, but it has the same staff part and the same crystals on the end. But yeah, it was pretty funny seeing his facial expression. Like everyone else is like just getting books signed, and I just walked up and I was like, "Can you sign my spear?" And he's just like, it's hilarious. But anyway, getting back to the alien Jeep story, I got a little off track there. Sorry, still waiting for Jim here. I hope he's doing okay. But getting back to the lime green Jeep story. So, you know, I really wanted a lime green Jeep, and like 4 years ago I've been kind of hosting and speaking at like UFO conferences for probably like 4 or 5 years now. And I believe it was, it's been like 4 years now. But during the time that Contact in the Desert had just happened, and it was about to be Alien Con here in LA 3 years ago, I believe, I really, really wanted this like neon green alien Jeep that was like, and I was looking at it online, and it was like, oh, you can lease this for like $200 a month. And I was like, oh my God, I want to put all my spears in there and drive it to AlienCon and like just load up at AlienCon in this Jeep. And freaking, I get there and I'm so excited. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get this Jeep. And so I sit down with the people at the Jeep place and they're like, honey, you don't have any credit. And I was like, they're like, you can't lease this. And that was like a brand new one. And I just like, I thought I could get it, but I didn't have any credit. So I had to figure out my credit situation. And then it just so happened this last year, I was like working on my credit. I almost had it there. And by the way, that color of the green on that Jeep was like not as bright neon green as the one I have now. But and I was trying to lease it. It was like a brand new one. So actually around this time last year, I was saving to get a new car. I had this like Lincoln Navigator that was just breaking down all the time. Like every time I drove to a conference in the middle of the desert, it would just break down in the middle of the desert. It was awful. But so I was driving. It was like right as the pandemic was starting, and I'm driving. And, you know, people were all freaked out during this time. And it was like right after it started, around this time last year. And someone just like smashes into me, the back of me. And it was so funny because that morning I was telling someone, I was like, man, you know, I really just need a new car so bad. I was like, I don't even want to deal with getting rid of this Lincoln. Like, it's breaking down. No one's going to want to buy it. It said online that it was worth $3,000, even though it was like a 2003 Lincoln Navigator. It was a piece of crap. There's like no, I didn't think there was any way I could even get $3,000 out of it. And then it just so happens that a Jeep Wrangler smashes into the back of me, and you know, I'm like all upset. I'm like, wow, now I'm never going to be able to sell my car. And then their insurance calls me. You know, I was able to actually drive the car to this place because it was like barely even damaged, really. It was just like slightly damaged on the back. And so I drove my car to the place their insurance told me to go to. And I'm like waiting for a few days, and they actually gave me a rental car and everything. And then the insurance place calls me and they're like, hey, we're considering your car a total loss. And I didn't know what that meant. I was like, oh my God, are you serious? I was like, it was barely scratched. My friend like grabbed me. He's like, no, don't say that. And I was like, what? I'm like, what? And like, they were like, yeah, it's considered a total loss, meaning we're going to give you $5,000 to cover it. And then we'll take it off your hands, which was like way more than I thought my Lincoln was even worth. And I'd already been saving to get a Jeep anyway. I wasn't even... So I was like, whoa, no way. It was like I won the jackpot or something. So I took my ass over to Jeep Westbrook in Van Nuys, and I financed I think it's a 2014 Jeep Wrangler. No, 2017. It was 2017, I believe. And this one, the color of green on this one is actually much closer. The lime, like the other one before was lime green, but it was not the same. It was more like Monster, like the Monster Energy drink lime green. The lime green of the one I have is actually much closer to the lime green of the UFO I saw. So it's actually much better. And it's a little older, but you know, I was able to put money down on it, and I was actually able to get it. And now, because I've been making payments on a car, my credit is awesome. So that's the story with the lime green Jeep. I'm sorry if you guys are waiting for Jim. I hope he's doing okay. If he doesn't come on, you know, we can just hang out tonight. So yeah, if anyone has any questions. Oh, let me also so just to let you all know, also I have on my shop right now these organite pyramids I've been creating. It's all of these ones behind me. They're really awesome. and I've been working really hard on them. And so these are all up on shamanspears.com as well. And I use all these to fund my show because right now, because the entertainment industry is like not working out, I am putting everything into my show I'm doing. And there's actually a lot of like there's actually a series that I want to get together of my presentation I go around giving called Solutions for Humanity. And for those of you wondering why I'm not in my new studio, there was a kind of a situation with that. I had to get moved to another unit, and one of the people that was involved in that situation screwed me out of thousands of dollars. So if anyone wants to help me out with getting into the new studio situation, would be much appreciated. And that should be by the end of this month or next month, I'll be getting in there. So sorry about the delay on that, but if you want to help me out, just go in my shop and buy my art. You know, instead of just like asking for donations, it's like donation with reward. And these are really cool because I put like flowers and stuff in them too. But the reason why I started making orgonite is because for my next collection of shaman spears, which is called the Odyssey collection, all the staffs are going to be silver. For the Pantheon collection, I made all gold staffs. My next collection is going to be called the Odyssey collection, and all the staffs are going to be silver. And I'm making all my own orgonite spearheads. Oh, thanks for the donation, Sylvan. Much appreciated. So basically, yeah, all my spearheads are going to be made out of orgonite I made myself. So that's why I'm kind of experimenting right now. So in the meantime, I've been putting these I'm getting like going a little overboard with the orgonite, you guys. It's just way too much fun. So I just I got all these molds, and I've just been making all this other stuff like in the meantime while I'm getting the other collection together. So I found these molds for like brass knuckles. I'm like, why not? I'll make orgonite brass knuckles. So this is in case you're all love and light, but you also want to fuck shit up. Ooh, I think I messed that one up a little bit. But orgonite brass knuckles. This one's a black tourmaline, I believe. Yeah, black tourmaline, orgonite brass knuckles. Pretty cool. So these are also up on shamanspears.com. Let me see if Jim has hit me up at all. Nope. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to be like, mean or anything, but I don't want to sound like rude by saying this, but Jim is a little bit of an old timer, and you know how they are with, computer stuff. I'm like that myself, honestly. I actually have to have one of my friends from Edge of Wonder help me out before almost every show because I never know how to figure out how to get on. So I think I have it figured out now, though. I've worked out the kinks with it. I know what I'm doing now for the most part. But if Jim can't come on tonight, it's okay. I'm still talking about his new book anyway. And I talked about who he was. If anyone has any questions, I'm sorry I haven't been paying attention. Let's go back here. Someone said, do you think the ritual sacrifice of women at CERN was real? And are they still doing them? Holy crap. I don't know anything about that. Astro Zombie Apocalypse. I never heard of that before. But what's crazy is I do believe that CERN popped us into another dimension or another reality. Because I was hearing, I don't know if you all were keeping up with that, but I was kind of like watching as everything was coming out about it, and like they actually had it to where they flipped it on like the day before or after my birthday in September. And I was like, and I knew before this was happening, before they were like getting ready to flip it on, I was like, dude, they're going to like destroy the world. But I think what they did was just popped us into another reality. Just looking here at the comments. So the real king of the world, Jim Goodall, is very late. tell him off for being uncouth. You know, I'm not gonna be mad at him because he's never used this system before. So, you know, I'm gonna just, you know, hopefully he can make it in. If not, it's totally fine. I promoted his book. Oh, he's hitting me up right now. But anyway, if he can't figure it out, he's telling me right now he can't figure it out. So, but he may still be able to. But if not, you know, I have talked about his work. Again, just look up his work. Jim Goodall, all of his books on these spy planes are so incredible. And, you know, he's just like done a lot with working with them over the years. He's retired, but he's like worked at all these aviation museums, and so he's really done incredible research on them. And the photos and these books are just phenomenal. I mean, really, really amazingly well done. So, yeah, I believe they should be on like Amazon or something, but I'll post a link later. But his new book is up today. But this is his previous one. Just look up Jim Goodall and check out his books. Yeah, you know, Rick, he actually, that's what the issue is. He's trying to use his Chrome browser right now. It's not updating correctly, apparently. Okay, I'm looking at the comments here. If anyone has any questions, just throw them in the chat. Yeah, Rick, I just told him try out Firefox instead, so hopefully that works out. Someone said, Occam's Razor says, the 2012 Olympic opening show, if you search it, it mirrors the health situation going on in the world right now. Yeah, you know, I checked that out, and it's pretty crazy. It's what did they tell these dancers that perform this? Like, that's what I wondered when I saw it. I was like, what did they even like tell them to do? You know, it's like, why did they tell them? What did they tell them that they were performing? I mean, I'm sure if I would have been a dancer for that, I'd be like, why are we doing this? Like, what is this? What is this like supposed to represent? You know, super interesting. Hashtag the real king of the world asks, I have a question. Would you rather work for the CIA or MI6 if both offered you a job? You know, I would say MI6. And I say that because I just read a book a while back that was super incredible, and it was called what was it called again? It was The Woman of No Name or something like that. Something like Unknown Woman or Woman of No Name. But it was just completely insane. It was like literally a biography about this woman who was she was a spy during World War II, and World War II. And she actually was from America, and this was like before the CIA even started. And she went to Europe, and she did a lot in France, and she actually really wanted to be an ambassador. This was like before the war started. She really wanted to be an ambassador, but because it was like the late 30s or early 40s or something like that, she just, or maybe it was before then, but she just obviously they didn't really let women have those kind of jobs back then, even though she was like very, very qualified. I mean, she was a very intelligent person, did a lot with her schooling in regards to all that. And she knew like everyone in France. So, all these important figures in France. So, when the Nazis started occupying France, they actually, MI6, I don't know if they had already started, they'd been around for a while or if they were just starting up, but she was actually had a job driving ambulances. And someone, after she finished the job, she did so well under pressure and she just like loved it. And so someone took her and they're like, hey, call this number when you get back to Britain. So she went back and she called the number and they're like, okay, well, basically, like, we're recruiting spies. We want to send them to France, and we don't have any women spies yet, and we think that you would do very well. So they trained her. She was basically the first, like, spy, like, for MI6 that was a female, or like one of the first spies actually, like, ever for MI6. And they sent her to Nazi-occupied France, like, just as it was starting to get bad. Like, it was at a point where, like, they weren't quite shipping people off to concentration camps yet, but they were, like, almost there. So they sent her in, and her disguise was that she was an American reporter for the New York Times. So this made her, like, be, like, kind of seem, like, very high class, and so it made it, like, okay for her to be in all the right places. And, if anyone asked, like, oh, what are you doing here? She'd just be like, oh, I'm a journalist. I have to be here, But it's crazy because it tells in detail everything that happens. And like they got the accounts from all the people that were around her at the time, all the other spies. Actually, she had to handle all the spies that were being sent in. They were hand sending in all these other spies, like all the spies they started training, they would send them in. And they would actually have to like parachute in, and she would have to go in, like grab them and like give them money and everything. And so she like handled all this, like pretty much everything. And she was the most sought after spy by the Nazis. Like they all wanted to know who she was. She had all these disguises. And there were like many times where she almost got busted and escaped and, still ended up being okay. But what was crazy was she basically started the resistance. And she actually got all these members of the resistance together at a time when it was really looked down upon to like be like against the Nazi party, and like people didn't understand like why like anyone would be against the Nazi party at the time. And so she was getting together the resistance, and she would actually have them be sending these people out to like bomb the supply trains and things like that for the Nazis, and bomb the Nazi supply trains. And she actually broke like tons of other spies out of prison. Like whenever like one of her like spy friends got taken in to like a prison, she would actually send a whole team and like do this whole operation to break them out. And she broke them out almost every single time. So I definitely recommend that book. It was a woman of no name or something. I'm sorry. It was something like a woman of no name, but it's about Virginia Hall. So just look up book about Virginia Hall. It like just came out. Let me see if Jim has sent me back at all. But yeah, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to come on. So sorry about that, you guys. But I'm here to party, so let's party. Who else? Oh, Game Runner. Thanks for the super sticker. Any other questions here? Rick Mackey says, what did you think of the Super Bowl satanic display. So many people don't see it. Same deal as the Olympics. You know, Rick, here's my answer to that. I didn't watch it. You know, and the reason why I didn't watch it is because I know that it was one of those satanic displays. And, you know, I really don't care about the Super Bowl. I don't give two shits about it. I just don't. So I didn't watch it, first of all. I didn't care about it. And then the next day, I mean, I assume there would probably be some weird satanic display there because, I mean, there always is at all these events these days, right? Am I right? So it was like, how much more shocking can they be? They just try to be so shocking. All their performances, all these pop stars, they're like, I'm going to be shocking and get more fans or so. I don't even, it's like, it's not even about the shock factor anymore because it's like, how much more shocking can you be until it's just really not that shocking anymore? It's like, oh, you're humping a Satanist on stage in nipple tassels. Congratulations. Not like we haven't seen that before. You know, you know what would be edgy and shocking? What would be really edgy and shocking is if a beautiful, fully clothed woman came on stage at the Grammys and just sang a beautiful, amazing song. That would be so edgy. It really would. And I know that's a Babylon Bee article, I'll admit, but I loved it. I thought it was incredible. It was a headline for a Babylon Bee article. But yeah, so I never watched it. I assumed there'd be something like that. And you know, okay, so the reason why I choose to not watch these, I don't watch the Grammys either. Like, all of these things where I know something's going to happen, I don't want to watch it because what it's doing is they're sending these things to you to brainwash you and to like screw with your head. Even if like you're a decent person, you're watching something like this, like, dude, they're definitely putting things in there to like do something to like capture your mind. And you know, there's probably some like weird like satanic like energy in it, and they're harvesting all the energy from everyone that's watching it. So that's why I don't watch it. I don't watch anything like that. I don't ever watch mainstream TV. I don't really watch mainstream news unless it's shoved down my throat at the airport or something. I don't watch it. And the way that I can find out about these things is just on Facebook the next day. Everyone posts like, hey, there was this like crazy satanic thing that happened at the Oscars, Grammys, blah, blah. And I'm like, no way. Shocking. So it said legal porn, LOL. That's totally what it is. And you know, I'll admit, like I'm an entertainer in LA, and you know, I'm very comfortable with myself. I take like photos, you know, like modeling photos and things like that. And it's not like, you know, to me, it's like it's not a problem. Like, you know, I know I'm friends with so many like amazing supermodels and actors and people like that out here in LA, and you know, it's not like everyone in the industry is like that. For me, I have a huge issue with like, I'm like the only person in the like UFO community that's actually in LA. So like a lot of people outside of LA that are like in the community just assume that I'm a part of the Illuminati because I'm from Hollywood, which is weird because I can't be in the Illuminati just because I live in Hollywood on in the entertainment industry. It doesn't work like that. I'm actually a starving artist, believe it or not. So, but to me, it's like, I have no problem with people being comfortable with themselves. I think everyone should be comfortable with themselves. I have no problem with like beautiful women taking like artfully nude, like implied like photos. Like I have no problem with that. To me, I have a problem when it's these like weird satanic things. That's when I have a problem. And you know, like I feel like everyone should be comfortable with themselves. I really, like, I say this all the time. I think it's so important that people are comfortable with themselves, and personally, I've been to like, I've been to like a nudist resort before, and I don't know. To me, that doesn't bother me. To me, what bothers me is when it's just like, something that's displayed for children and it's just this weird, like, satanic crap. That's what bothers me. Yeah, Rick says, it's the energy and actions, not the garb. Sorry, just hitting back Jim here. Okay, any more questions here? Just laughing at some of these comments here. Occam's Razor says, so what kind of new flight technologies are we going to see when the staged invasion arrives? I've been talking about this a lot on my show because I really feel that a staged invasion, like a bogus banner, is very likely to happen soon. And, a lot of people like Greer and a lot of people that have been like sort of behind the scenes with things in the government, like have seen these things being talked about for a long time, like are kind of worried this is going to happen soon. And to me, I think it's likely just because they're coming out with so much in regards to disclosure this year, which I think is amazing and that's great. But to me, it's like, okay, if they're coming out to about disclosure, maybe it's not for the best reason. So that kind of worries me that the next plan on the agenda, so much has been happening the last couple of years, right? Or the past year. But I think the next thing up on the agenda may be a bogus banner, alien invasion. And, there's two different types of technologies that have been talked about in regards to this. One is the Project Bluebeam stuff, which is like 4D holograms that could be projected in the sky, which some people say may have been one of the planes that hit one of the towers on in September many years ago. But I don't know about that, but I can tell you if you look up this kind of technology, like just this like 4D technology that's like come out, it's pretty crazy what they can do. I mean, it looks really real and really just depends on where the projectors are, but what they have come out with now, and it's like, just look at what they're showing the public. Like, don't take my word for it. Look at what these 4D hologram type technology that they're showing to the public, first of all, and then think, okay, if this is what they're releasing to the public, then what they have is probably hundreds of years, like 100 years more advanced than what they're showing the public. So, yeah. But the other kind of technology I think they could likely use if they do that, which they may not do it now just because like people like me and like people like Dr. Greer and all these people have come out and, like basically spoken out about it. So it's like, can they pull that card if everyone already knows what's going to happen with that? And I mean, I guess like most of us in the disclosure scene, this is common knowledge to us, but maybe not the wide majority of people out there, unfortunately. So definitely keep spreading the word to like all your like communist news network watcher homies, people like that, if you get what I'm saying. But yeah, so what was I saying? So the other way that I think they could do it is obviously they probably have craft that is, anti-gravity technology, you like flying, like there's been pictures of flying saucers that like the Nazis have had. So there's flying saucers out there. So like they already have this. They've probably had it, from my understanding, they've had it since the late 40s. So You know, I think it's likely that they could also just send people in with the craft they already have and make it stage an invasion. Someone said it's not saucer. I've seen some that are saucer shaped, and then there's probably some that aren't. I think there's like some of both. So I see it that happen. But then, like, to me, it's like, okay, who would they be able to pay to do that? Like, who in the government would be like, okay, like, you know, like, what are they going to pay someone in the Air Force to like be like, oh, we're staging an invasion to like screw with the public, so you got to fly this like new ship down and freak everyone out? Like, who's going to go with that? I don't know. It seems kind of weird to me. I don't know. Who knows? You know, who knows? I think it's more likely the Project Bluebeam type technology. So just reading the comments here. Anyone have any questions? Just trying to pass the time here. Sorry, Jim's not going to be able to make it on today, but it's okay. Abandoned says, I seen one shaped like a submarine covered with a cloud in Ohio. Interesting. You know, that sounds like the cigar craft, which is, yeah, obviously a lot of people, secret space program whistleblowers have come out and said that that's what they have been working on. Because, you know, what's interesting with that is, you know, like a great way to like, obviously any kind of ship that goes into outer space has to be like airtight, and the technology we already have before we started seeing stuff into space was submarines. So submarines are already something that's airtight. It's been worked on for years. So it's like, it was easy for them to like, would be easy for them to send those out in space. So that's what's interesting about the cigar craft. Someone, Matthew here, asked if I have my own experiences. Let me throw that comment up, actually. You know, I just talked about my lime green orb experience. I talked about that earlier, so I'm not going to talk about that one again if you're just tuning in here. But I do have some other experiences. So if you want to hear a little story time, let me just get a nice gulp of water here. Okay, and Steven, thanks for the super chat sticker. I'll answer your question next. But, okay, story time. What do you think? My other experiences. You know, I've had a lot with the triangular craft. And the first experience I can really remember with it, because I feel like I was abducted when I was a kid, probably many times, but my memories were wiped. Because, like, I just remember at one point when I was younger, I was, like, terrified of aliens. Like, I thought they were going to come through my window, and I was, like, freaking out about it. So I think something must have happened, but you know, my memories were wiped or something. But I did have a few crazy experiences with a triangular craft. The first one was, I remember I was at a youth group camp in Tennessee, and we were like driving to the youth group camp somewhere in Tennessee, and one of the days when we were driving there, I just like looked, and there's this big triangular craft that just starts going around a building, like a big tall like skyscraper type building. And I was like, dude, you guys see that? It's like a black triangular craft with a light on every corner. And everyone was just like, no, I don't see that. And I think it has something to do with like a perception thing. Like, you know, if it's not something like your mind can comprehend, then you might just like not be able to see it, you know? And another time I had an experience with the triangular craft was, I was in the middle of the desert. This time, not in Joshua Tree. My first experience that I told you guys about at the beginning of the show was in Joshua Tree. But this time I was actually at Area 52, which is like, so all these areas are actually like scientific like research areas. So Area 52 is a tortoise research area. And I just happened to be at this like kind of like burner thing that a lot of like Native Americans were at, like way out in the middle of the desert. And I wasn't on anything. Disclaimer. And it was actually like a little after sunrise, and I'm with a group of people, like we all saw this. And it's like the middle of the desert, so it's like there's nothing like blocking our view of the sky. Like there's no mountains around or anything. And all of a sudden we all hear something very loud, and we look up, and like right over us, I mean this thing is like literally like right over us is a triangular craft. And I mean it's like broad daylight. And it was like right over us, and it was super loud. And we're all looking up, and we're like, whoa, oh my God, what is that? And then it just like 1 second it's there, and then it's just not there anymore. And we're all looking around, and the noise was gone too. And we're all looking around, we're like, where did it go? Like, it wasn't like it flew away. Like there's no clouds for it to go in. There was like nowhere for it to have gone. Like it was just like over us and like low over us, and then it wasn't there anymore. Super weird. So I almost think like maybe it was something from, I believe that was actually probably something from Area 51 that had like flown over, and they were like testing something out, and whatever cloaking technology they had with it was faulty, and it like stopped working for a little bit because I don't know, or maybe it was aliens, I don't know. But besides that, I've actually just seen a lot of weird things like stars kind of zipping around. And if you go to places like Sedona or Joshua Tree, it's like easy to see them. In places where you can see like tons of stars, you can see like the ones that they'll be going like this, and then they start like zigzagging and like jumping around like that. Like that's not a satellite, or that's definitely a craft. I need to answer Steven's question here. How do you feel about FE, a level playing field? I'm not sure what FE is, so you're gonna have to tell me what that is. Sorry about that. Oh, is that what it? Okay, is it? I don't believe in flat Earth, if that's what you're talking about. But one thing I do think is interesting is I have spoken with someone before who spoke with someone who was a very high-level Freemason, and apparently the 33rd degree Freemasons do believe in that. So I thought that was interesting, but no, I don't think I believe in that. Sorry. Someone said, what? Shane Reed here says, what about the Pentagon release about the triangle vehicles? I haven't actually read that particular document, I believe, but trying to think here. Yeah, I would have to like read exactly what article or whatever you're talking about. Matthew here says, do you think you're in a simulation? I love how you asked that like just me. Like, am I in a simulation? No one else is? Or like, is that what you mean? I don't know. Or just like everyone in particular. I'm going to answer that like everyone in particular, not just me. But yeah, I do think that we're all in a simulation. I don't know if it's like how people think it is, it's hard to like wrap your mind around what exactly that is or what exactly that would mean. But I know like one thing that has proven it is apparently like scientists have found that when you go to touch something, even though you can feel it, there's actually like a space between like your finger and what you're touching. It's really weird. It's like, I don't know how they describe it. It's like something to do with like the atoms and like the molecules. Like it pushes away, so that's like really strange. But yeah, you know, I do think we're in a simulation. I believe that there's multiple realities happening simultaneously. I believe in that also. I mean, I don't know if like us being in simulation means that someone just created this place and some scientists in lab coats, and then like we're just in this petri dish somewhere, like I don't know, or we're in like a video game or something. I don't think it's like that. It's like, how do you wrap your mind around it in this kind of way? But also another thing that proves is that like the whole fabric of the universe is actually like made out of like ones and zeros, apparently, like computer code, like when it's broken down somehow. I'm not, you know, a physicist, so I don't know how to explain all that, but that's just what I've heard. So the real king of the world says, I think she's AI. I hope I would know if I'm AI. I'm not AI. I'm definitely a real person, but maybe I'm not. I actually had, you know, it's really weird. I'll tell you guys something that really tripped me out. This one time I was at a conference in Vegas, and I don't know if any of you have been to conferences before, you know, like people kind of come up and say weird things to you. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe people just say weird things to me when I'm at conferences. But I definitely get a lot of really weird stuff. But actually this very famous like psychic person who was speaking there, I believe his name was Dr. Turi. I don't know if a lot of you probably know of him. But he came up to me and said all these things about me that like were definitely spot on. And then he told me that I was like robotic. And I was like, what do you mean? And he didn't answer that. And I'm like, what do you mean? Am I a robot? Like, I'm not, I don't think I'm a robot. I would hope I would know that. But I've seen like some weird sci-fi movies where I forget, there was like one sci-fi movie that came out like last year, I think, on like Netflix or something, where all these people that like they thought they were real people, and then one day they realized that they were like organic, like robots. Like they actually like their brains were like robotic, but then they were like, you know, they looked organic. So that just like tripped me out. I was like, what do you mean? I think I'm real. I hope I'm real. Rick says AI equals awesome individual. I agree with that. Thank you. So he says fembot. Pew pew. That makes it sound like I'm like one of those robot sex dolls. That's messed up. Was there any other questions here? Let's see. Yeah, I'm looking back in the comments here. Zoe Jane says atoms are mostly empty. Yeah, I think that's what I was kind of getting to earlier. Oh, so this new article that I mentioned, someone mentioned to me earlier about the triangular craft was apparently on Fox News early today. That's incredible. Wow. See, like so much coming out this year. Hopefully they're not using it as a bogus banner agenda that they might be pulling though. So let me read this other comment here. Whoa, I've been going for about almost an hour now, so if anyone has any more questions. He said, Matthew says time is up. Okay, well, you know, guys, I'm so sorry that Jim wasn't able to come on today, and he feels really bad about it, and I don't want him to feel bad. You know, he's never used this program before, so he wasn't really sure how to use it, and some things had to update on his computer. So hopefully I can have him on in the future. But like I said, you know, he's a really awesome individual. He's worked with some really amazing individuals. He knows Bob Lazar and John Lear personally. Oh, I'm gonna answer this question. And like I said, just check out his books. He's like written like 20 books, and these books are just like so freaking incredible. I mean, the photos in them are just like beyond amazing. And I couldn't believe that, this one's on the SR-71 Blackbird, and I could not believe that all these photos, like this plane, like this does not look like something that would have come out in the 60s. Like, I was actually really blown away when I'm like, it looks like a UFO, does it not? Like like our technology is very much starting to rival ET technology. Or we're probably already past that, and I'm not sure when they created these spy planes and when they were actually like kind of released to the public. But Bob Gray here says, will you go back to Area 51? I would love to go back. I hope next time I go back, I'm actually allowed inside it, though. Totally serious. I'm serious. And actually, it's funny, Jim Goodall, who is going to be on the show tonight, he wants to do a trip there with me. Apparently, he actually went there before. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to tell this story, but he actually went there and like went into the property from like another side, and it was this whole thing. And he was trying to tell me that he wants to do that with me and Doc Skinner at some point, and we're going to document it. I don't know about that though, because that was like, I think he said it was a couple decades or so ago. And he told me the technique he did it, the way he did it, but I don't know. I think I think the military that's there these days might not be okay with that. So I don't know. I don't want to be like shot or something. I mean, I think I would just be arrested, but maybe not. I've never been arrested before though, so that would be kind of crazy. Okay. One of these comments here. If you woke up one day and you was pregnant and then you gave birth to Yoda, what would you name it? Man, that's an interesting question. Oh, wow. Let me think here. I think I would name him Rafiki. And honestly, to be perfectly honest with you, I've never really wanted to have like a real baby before, but when I saw Baby Yoda, I really wanted one. So I would be okay with that if that happened to me. I'd be like, I'm okay with this, and I would name him Rafiki. That's my answer. Someone said, why not Bob? No, his name is going to be Rafiki. I don't know why. It's just what comes to me. So someone said, where did you hear about simultaneous time? I actually did hear about this, and I don't know. I almost feel like I kind of always had a feeling about it, about multiple realities happening simultaneously. But one thing that really got me with it was, or like someone that really helped me understand this was my quantum touch energy healing coach a few years back. I definitely had an idea of it a long time before then. I don't even remember how I just kind of, a lot of things, it's like I'm like just a very intuitive person, so I just kind of have like feelings. I feel like I really like see things from a very big picture kind of way. My personality type is actually an ENFP. If anyone out there knows about Myers Briggs Junkian. I'm an ENFP, so we tend to think in like the bigger picture aspect of things. So it's like, to me, it's like, I don't know, like I just kind of get feelings about things. And but my energy healing coach, he explained to me he can see energy very well. Like he can see like the colors, like auras on things like super easily. Like he can just like tap into it and like zone in on it. And he said one day he was just having a really like crazy day, and or like it was just like everything felt weird and like really off, and he was just not having a good time. And so he kind of like shifted into like that vision and was looking at everything, and he said that he knows this sort of like gray, like I don't know, like gray like substance around, like gray like aura around everything, like a dirty like gray like weird aura substance. Um and he was just like ugh. And so he just kind of like turned his thoughts around, and he said he just like worked really hard to like get in a more positive state, and then it changed and everything was okay again. And I think that's where like Mandela effect stuff comes from. Like we talked about CERN earlier, and I think CERN, I feel like the main reason for the Mandela effect crap that's, you know, everyone like sees is, I think that has a lot to do with CERN, like putting some of us into other dimensions. So, my mom just commented here and said, no, don't get arrested. That's funny. But I think CERN definitely put us in another dimension. But you know, I think really it's like every day is a choice. Like every second is a choice. There's so many possibilities. Like there's so many paths. In any psychic you talk to will tell you this. Like they'll say like you know, I could tell you this, but it might, your path might change. And it's like, you know, that's the kind of idea with prescience. There's so many different paths, and like you may have a set destiny. Like, you know, your astrology, your North Star, you have a set destiny, but there's multiple roads that can take you to it. And we all have free will. So, and that's like the superpower of being a human, is having free will. So even like no matter what your astrology says, you can still have the power of your free will. If it says like, oh, you're going to die by water, you know, like you could probably choose that doesn't happen. So, you know, the free will is very powerful. But I think, so that being said, I feel that every second of every day, we're choosing by our thoughts which reality we're stepping into. So it's like, do you want to be in a good reality today? Like, are you going to wake up and be like, you know what? I'm so excited to start my day. I'm going to do this and this and this today. And you jump out of bed and you're like, yes, you know, I'm going to get this done today. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have fun. And I'm going to get all these things done so that I'm not all freaking out and procrastinating like last minute, like the next day. Or are you going to wake up in the morning and be like, ugh, and then like not get out of bed and just like be like in a bad mood just from the minute you wake up? Like, you ever have one of those days you're just like, you know, just like, I don't want to do this today. I hate everything. I don't like this person. And, you know, it's like, that's a choice. That's always a choice. No matter what anyone supposedly is doing to you, whatever external forces you're dealing with, it's always your choice on how you're going to react to it. And why choose to let anyone throw you off balance? You don't need that. It doesn't matter what anyone's doing. And I've proven this to myself over the past year. It's like, you know, anyone can do anything to you to try to throw you off in the world, anything. But if you're in your power and you are just doing you, then it doesn't matter. None of it matters. Okay, that was a rant. Let me see. Any more questions here? Stephen J says, I'm looking forward to seeing you play the role of Barbarella. You know what? I should not talk about this on here. Like, I don't want to jinx it or whatever, but that is my number one goal in life, and it's happening. I don't care what anyone said. Like, I probably shouldn't talk about it because I don't want them to go out and make a remake of it, and then it's not me. That would just be horrible. But, like, who else? I mean, I'm an actor. I have already proven myself in the entertainment industry. For those of you who haven't seen it, go check out my IMDb. I've been in feature film with a lot of amazing people. I've been in Reno 911. I've been on Star Trek. Done a lot of pretty cool things, you know? I had like some one-liners, and I've had like kind of a decent role in this movie that was produced by Tim Robbins and directed by his son. So, you know, which is called VHS, by the way. Definitely go check that out. It's actually a really great movie. Really funny. So check out my IMDb. But, you know, I did all those things, and I have also been very much involved in the UFO community for a very long time. So, I mean, who else? And I have strawberry blonde hair, or like reddish strawberry blondish hair. So, like, seriously, who else would they have play this role? If they have anyone else besides me play, and I'm not being egotistical at all by saying this, okay? Like, I'm not that kind of person. I'm just saying, like, common sense wise, who else would they have play that role? It's gotta be me. It just has to be. Okay. Shane Reed says, tell us why you wear the gloves. I don't know if you came here from Third Base Moon, but, you know, a lot of people who watch Third Base Moon ask this. And I don't know. I started wearing them, like, you know, I think part of it is, like, I was a guitarist in a band before the world went to crap. And I was touring and everything with this band called the CERN. And that may happen again someday, maybe not, I don't know. But, you know, it was just kind of my rocker style at the time. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. Oh my gosh, Jim is on here. Oh my God, we're finally going to have him on.
Yeah, let me go get my headset, okay?
Okay. Oh my gosh, he's here. But anyway, the gloves. So... yeah, basically, I actually decided, I just started wearing them all the time, and then my hands actually feel naked when I don't wear them now. I just feel weird. So I'm actually going to start designing my own gloves. I'm super excited about it, and they're going to be way cooler than anything that's on the market. So be ready for that.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Do you hear me?
I am so very sorry. It turns out I have a Mac that I use when I'm on the road, and it's the only, I have some problems with my iMac. And this is the only one I can use a podcast on. And I didn't realize that I hadn't updated any of my software for the last 6 months. So it just finished updating about 2 minutes ago. And I said, okay, I got to turn it off, turn it back on, see if I can link up. And huzzah, I'm here.
Huzzah! Oh my gosh. You know, it's totally fun because I've actually been having a really fun time with my audience here. So I think I just got them all warmed up for you.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So can you give us a little bit of your background? I think I read your bio earlier. I've just found it on a site somewhere. I don't know if it's very updated, but can you tell everyone here a little bit about your career and like what you've done?
Okay, I'm a retired Air Force Master Sergeant. I have 27 books published. My last real job before I retired, I was the curator at the Pacific Aviation Museum at Pearl Harbor. And the only problem at the time being single in Hawaii is there's only a limited number of ladies you can date. And the island just got too small. I was ready to marry my then girlfriend, and she's my wife today. So, but I've been interested in airplanes since I was a little kid. I mean, I'm 76, so it goes back a long, long, long way. And probably what really got me going, I saw my first Blackbird as an 18-year-old two-striper at Edwards Air Force Base on March 10th, 1964. Now, that's almost 60 years ago. At
that time, was it released to the public? Like, no, did the general public know about it? Or like, when did the general public find out about those?
The general public found out about the YF-12 interceptor in September of 64. And then they announced the existence of the SR-71, which is the Air Force's reconnaissance version of the Blackbird. But my favorite airplane is the A-12 Oxcart. And I didn't, that wasn't released to the public until 20 years after it was retired. But I've had a thing about spooky airplanes, Area 51, things that go bump in the night. I mean, I met Bob Lazar before he went to work out in the desert. And
wow.
at that particular time, he did not believe in UFOs at all.
How did you meet him? Was he in some sort of schooling together, or?
No, he had just moved from Albuquerque to Las Vegas. He was doing some work with some real estate agents to buy a house. And somewhere along the line, I'm not sure how it actually happened, unless it was fate. He was introduced to John Lear. And those of you who are into things that go bump in the night, UFOs and abductions, have heard of John Lear. And he's been a very, very dear friend of mine for 50 years. And the day I met Lazar, John and I had headed up to Tonopah just to check out Tonopah Test Range. That's where the F-117s were allegedly flying. No one had seen them yet, but we wanted to be the first ones. We're going up US 95 near Scotty's Junction, and this is the eastern slope of the Sierra Nevadas. And over our head, at about 1,500 feet, an F-117 flew right over us, and I about crashed the car. I mean, we jumped out. I tried to grab my cameras, but they were in the trunk. We got to Tonopah, got a quick bite, drove down US 6, about 14 miles, and there's the road going to Tonopah Test Range. There's a big sign up there. It says Sandia Center there. So we headed down the road 18 miles. You got to the guard shack, a lot of activity. So we just drove down the north end of the fence line, and we're sitting there waiting for something to happen. And in the far distance, I see a black dot and a real small little white dot with lights on. And what it was an F-117 and a T-38 coming in for approach. They're about 20 miles out. And I was shooting print film back then. This is 1989. This is January of 89. They had announced the existence of the F-117, but no one had ever really seen it in person other than Air Force and CIA and people working in the classified industry. And we were shooting print film, and this F-117 came over my head with the T-38, and I started shooting. And out of 36 exposures, there was only 3 that weren't a little bit blurry. I was like a 10 or 11-year-old kid seeing a naked woman for the first time. Not a girl, but a naked woman. And my whole body was just trembling. And I finally, we got the pictures, and I said, well, let's head back to Las Vegas. So we head down US 6 till we get to the extraterrestrial highway, which is Nevada 375, headed south, stopped at Little Alien for a quick bite.
I love Little Alien.
Yes. And the first time I went to the Alien was 1987. So right after Joe and Pat Travis had bought the place. But John Lear and I got back to his house about 9:15 that night. Now, those of you who are old enough, and you got to be really old, and I know you don't qualify. There used to be what they call photomats. In every small shopping center was a little kiosk, much like your coffee baristas today, about the same size. And they usually had a Kodak motif on it. And you'd drop your film off and come back the next day, and they were processed. So they were all closed by the time we got back to Vegas. And we were there at John's house about 10 minutes. And John said, hey, I got a new friend coming over. I think you'll find him interesting. And I said, okay, fine. So about 5 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. John went, answered the door, brought this young man into his office, and he said, hi, my name is Bob Lazar. And at the time, Bob Lazar was just another guy. And I told him about my dilemma with the print film, and he said, "Hey, I got a processing unit at home. Let's jump in my car. I live off of West Charleston, and we'll get it processed, print up a couple good photos, and I'll bring you back." So we did. We jumped in his car. We're about a block out of John Lear's house, and Lazar looked at me and he said, "Jim, I feel so sorry for Bob Lazar." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "His dad brought Learjet to the world. He's part of the world famous Lear family. And the son of a bitch believes in UFOs. How stupid is that?" He said, "I'm a nuclear physicist. If I can't prove it mathematically or touch it with my hands, it doesn't exist." And with that, we headed off to his place. We processed the film. We found that there were only 3 that weren't blurry, and headed back to Lear's house. And I figured that was it. I didn't run into Bob again for another year. At the time I was living in Minnesota. I didn't get out to Las Vegas very often. And next thing I know, George Knapp, who I knew before met Lear, I mean, not Lear, but Lazar, he's doing a special about some guy who works at a place called S4 doing reverse engineering on alien spacecraft. And that would be none other than Bob Lazar. So my introduction to Bob goes back before he was working out in the desert. His story has never really changed, even way back when it was really to his advantage to change it. It's a shame that he's gotten so brutalized over the years, because people say, well, he's a fraud, he's a fake. Now, if he was a fake, when George Knapp interviewed Edward Teller, the father of the H-bomb, and the guy that Bob said hired him, when George asked Edward Teller, do you know Bob Lazar? And his comment was, "No comment." Now, if Bob had been a fraud, I'm sure Teller would have jumped on him with both feet. But being he was working in a classified environment, I'm talking about Lazar, and when someone's asked a question about that person, you can neither confirm nor deny his existence or the fact you even know him. So Teller was working within the security guidelines, and it just turns out that everybody involved around Lazar that could say that, hey, he's a phony, he's a fake, have all chosen not to comment. And probably the most telling event happened directly to me. I had Bob Lazar's W-2. I had marked out his social security number in case someone found the paper. Wow. And I was activated. Actually, I volunteered. I had a fatal attraction coming after me, and I had to get out of town. I volunteered for Desert Shield and Desert Storm. So I headed off to the Pentagon for 121 days. And it was interesting. And my job was to brief all new coming officers, general officers, admirals, on what was happening during Desert Shield and Desert Storm. So I had to read. Incredible. I had to read and see everything. I was the wing commander's historian. So whatever the wing commander knew, I had to have access to. But I had some downtime. At the time, I was an E6. I was a tech sergeant. And I wanted to see if I can find where Bob worked. Now, I had his W-2 in my hand. So I'm looking through the Pentagon roster of organizations, and there's nothing with that exact same Department of the Navy name and address on it. So I went over, I think it was Naval Investigative Services, and I walk into the office. Now I'm in uniform, and there's a young Lieutenant JG sitting behind the desk. And I said, "Sir, can you tell me where this organization is?" And I hand him Bob's W-2. He looks at it. He said, "Excuse me, I'll be right back." He goes into the two-star admiral's office. He's in there about 30 seconds, maybe 45 seconds. He comes out. He said, "The admiral will see you now." Now, what you don't understand unless you've been in the military, a Navy admiral is not going to talk to an Air Force enlisted puke out of the blue. They don't talk to enlisted ranks very often. The Navy has a real strong feeling of separation of ranks. So I walk into his office and I give him a real sharp salute, and he says, "Parade rest," not at ease, parade rest. And he's looking at Bob's W-2 and he said, "Sergeant, I don't know where you got this, but if I ever see you cross my threshold ever again, you'll be the most sorry son of a bitch NCO in the United States military. Do you understand me, Sergeant?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, with that, he said, "You're dismissed." I gave him a sharp salute. I did an about face and left. Now, if Bob Lazar's W-2 was phony, if the location that paid him was phony, the Lieutenant JG would not have taken the W-2 into the admiral's office, and the admiral would not have chewed my butt out for having his W-2. So that
definitely proves it right there.
Right. Those are two things that say that, hey, this guy named Lazar, yeah, he's the real thing. So the rest is history. Bob is who he is. I hope to visit him this summer. I was going to do it last summer. I know I have to drag you out to Area 51 one of these days when we get out there. But with
I would love to.
With the shutdowns and the lockdowns and no travel, nothing's open.
I actually went there over the summer to do film something for Third Phase of Moon. I was actually doing a music video, or my friend, she wanted me to be an alien in her music video, so that was the reason for the trip. But we went through, and I just went to the back gate, and that's it. But I definitely want to go back.
Well, like I've mentioned multiple times, I have been at the fence line at Tonopah Test Range and at Area 51 over 80 times.
Wow.
And that's over almost a lifetime. I've been going out there since the 70s. And I like spooky airplanes. I like things that go bump in the night. I wrote the first book on the F-117. Actually, I co-authored it with Bill Sweetman. And that's another story for another day, but it affected my security clearance. Because I was the wing historian, I had to have the same classification as my boss. My boss had a top secret with special access allowed. So I had to have the same clearance. And when I was activated, I had my clearance I had a flag on it because I was too nosy, and I was asking too many questions of our government. But that's my job. And my job is to challenge everybody that works in that funny building on the Potomac.
Interesting. So I have one of the viewers here has a question for you. Astro Zombie Apocalypse asks, question for Jim. Are the new Navy Space Force vessels powered by an internal power source, or are they powered by an external power source like ether Tesla power?
The new Space Force is relatively new. It's been being put together over the last 8 or 9 years. What powers it? I think right now all we're seeing is it's conventional capabilities. So it'll be a rocket motor and such. But a couple of interesting things about the Space Force and space in general and UFOs, and you have to be an old codger to remember this. Back in the mid '80s, in Reykjavik, Iceland, Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev met face to face to sign a peace agreement as a Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty number 2, SALT II. And while he was there, President Reagan gave a speech, and they were talking about Star Wars, SDI, the Space Defense Initiative. And he said, we developed Star Wars to prevent a Holocaust, either China or a rogue nation or the remained of the former Soviet Union. If they were to fire a nuclear tipped ballistic missile at us, we would have the ability to stop that. But then President Reagan, and it's you can search it and you can find it in his records, that Ronald Reagan actually said, and it was part of his prepared speech, that Star Wars could also be pointed outward to protect Earth from an invasion from outer space. That's just President Reagan. So wow. The other thing that's really exciting is President Trump, prior to the election, signed an executive order ordering all federal agencies within the federal government, which is everybody, including the alphabets, that would be CIA, DIA, NSA, and such. They have 180 days to declassify and release everything they have on UFOs.
Do you think they're going to release everything? I heard a lot of documents they're releasing are like blacked out.
Well, I saw the first batch, and it was what 15,000 PDF files, and there were a lot of redactions. But that was at the very, very beginning. I think the treasure trove is going to be near the end, where everybody's holding on, hoping that they don't have to release it. Something else will change. And all we can do is wait and hope. The other thing, as I look back over my life and what I've done, one of my last volunteer jobs, I was a volunteer at the Kitt Peak National Observatories outside of Tucson, Arizona. I call Tucson home. And on the top of Kitt Peak, they have 22 optical telescopes, everything from a 12-inch to a 4-meter, that's about 13 and a half feet, meter telescopes, plus 2 large radio telescopes, a 12-meter and a 25-meter. On their 2.1 meter telescope, it's about 8 feet. Caltech had been operating it remotely with adaptive optics, and they, over a course of 5 years, in a very, very small part of our Milky Way, went looking for exoplanets. Exoplanets are planets that are there, but are orbiting a sun or a star that's not ours. And in other words, they're outside of our solar system. And over the course of that 8 years, or that 5 years, they were able to catalog and verify 8,000 exoplanets in a very small part of the Milky Way. That's just our galaxy.
Wow.
Now, just before I left, there was we had a meeting of all the astronomers, all the technicians, and all the docents from one of the lead astronomers from the National Science Institute. And he had just returned from a major gathering of all astronomers that are looking for exoplanets. And it was about a 10-day session. When they got done, the conclusions that they came to, now these aren't scatterbrained people who want to create controversy or something else. These are all PhDs with their reputation in hand. And they calculate for every star in the universe, that's a whole bunch, but for every star in the universe, there's 1.5 planets. And out of that incredible number of planets, they calculate, based on their best guess, and these are all best guesses, that there are 2 billion, and that's with a B, 2 billion Earth-like planets orbiting a similar brown dwarf star like our sun in the inhabitable zone with liquid water.
Wow, that's incredible. And yeah. I really feel that people who think that there couldn't be alien life out there, that's almost like a narcissistic, self-revolving way of looking at things, because it's just, I mean, there's so many possibilities. I mean, there has to be more life out there. How can there not be?
Well, like Jodie Foster's character in the movie Contact said, if we're the only ones, what a waste of space. Now we're an insignificant solar system in an insignificant corner of an insignificant galaxy on the edge of the known universe. What makes you think that we're the only ones? I mean, just the odds of having other life forms, whether they look like you and I, or like a couple of my ex-wives, I don't know. Actually, all my wives have been good looking, so what can I say? They're there. And people say, well, why hasn't the government released more information on it? Well, they may not be the ones in charge of releasing the information. I mean, there's been reports that the so-called aliens have told, us humans, those that are in the loop, that we're not ready for a disclosure, but it's coming soon. So when it comes, I hope it lands on the lawn of the White House during a live news conference on the on the Rose Garden. That's about the only way the world is going to say, hey, this is not computer generated, this is real. And the other part of me hopes it's not like Mars Attacks. That's one of my favorite alien movies. So
I agree. We have a few more questions by the audience here. Zoe Jane says, what about the TR-3B anti-gravity made by Lockheed Martin?
I don't know if it's made by Lockheed Martin or not. There's been a lot of questions about the TR-3B going on for about 10 or 15 years. I have to go spend time in and around Area 51 and Tonopah Test Range, and I'll do it. I mean, anybody can do it. It's just the fact that, it's been myself, or it's been Michael Schratt, or it's been Steve Douglas, who is our electronic interceptor. And during the 1990s, almost the whole 90s, there was a group of us. We called ourselves the Dreamland Interceptors, and we all had our own we all had our names. I mean, Bob Gilliland actually came up to the top of Whitesides with us. And those who don't know who Bob Gilliland is, he was the first man to fly the SR-71. And I invited him up in the mountain, and he was just thrilled to be there. He said he hadn't seen Area 51 in 25 years. So we had a fun. But most of those guys are gone or dead, or decided, well, that was fun back then, but I'm old and decrepit now, and I can't do that. So there's only a couple of us that still go out and snoop on our government, which is our job. And I'm gonna leave the screen just for a minute. I got to turn some lights on. It's starting to get dark.
Okay, no problem. Leon, I hope you're still in the chat here. Oh, it's a bit of an echo. I'll wait. Testing. It looks like Leon got a little upset that I didn't put his question up on the screen, but I can only do one question at a time, man. I can't stop him in the middle of a story, so I'm sorry. But I'll answer your question next. I promise you.
That's a little bit better.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Like I live in a cave, and you can't see it very well, but that's my newest book right behind me.
Amazing. What's your new book called, so that the audience can find it, and where can they find it?
I've got to put my headset on so I can hear you. It was supposed to come out in February, but because of COVID, It's been delayed, but it should be here by middle of May, early part of May.
Interesting. Why would a book be delayed because of COVID?
Because it's printed, like all nice books are almost all printed in China.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I was showing the audience earlier your book you gave me right here that you just happened to send me right before I left for Area 51. So I was talking about that a little. But what's your new book going to be called? And where can the viewers find your books?
Well, my hardbound books you can find on Amazon. Just go books by James, middle initial C, last name Goodall, Goodall. And that my Blackbird book is in there. My B2 pictorial is in there. And I have 2 on submarines, the Los Angeles class family. And then volume 2 is Seawolf, Virginia class. And in my 27th book is the one I just pointed behind me. And that is 75 years of the Lockheed Skunk Works. And I'm so very, very proud of that. It's 384 pages, 1,100 photos, about 100,000 words of text. And I covered 43 classified programs, or programs that were classified at one time.
Wow, that sounds very interesting. I definitely can't wait to check that out.
And I'm a guy who hated to write. I mean, when I was in college, I had to write a 500-word essay, and I had 6 weeks to do it on. The night before it's due, I'm on my Smith Corona. This is before anybody had a laptop or even a computer, and I'm plunking away. I get it done, and I got an A on it, but I absolutely hated doing it. And what did I do? I ended up being a published author with 27 books to my name. So I'm very proud of that.
What got you started as an author? What made you write your first book?
Intimidation. I had a number of friends that, everybody in the world, when they ask us, and this is friends at the Smithsonian and Air and Space, and also the Air Force Museum and a few other locations. Back in the late 70s, the Tester company, they make scale model airplanes and cars and whatever. They wanted to do a large scale model of the Blackbird. And everywhere they went, they ran into opposition because the program was still classified. But absolutely everybody they talked to said, hey, you got to call Jim Goodall. He has all that stuff. So people say, well, do a book on the Blackbird. And I hemmed and hawed, and it wasn't my time yet. And then I had, this happened to be like 1988. My boss came up to me in the Air Guard. Now, I was a salesman for high-tech companies most of my life, but I had 5 years active duty, a 10-year break, and then 21 years with the Minnesota Air National Guard as a weekend warrior. But my boss, who was a one-star general, but he flew for Northwest Airlines, he called me in for a weekend. He said, Jim, I got someone you have to track down and interview. I said, who would that be? He said, well, his name is Steve Paulson. He's one of the very first guys to fly the F-117. So I'm game. I think I was set up to do this. I think I honestly was set up to do this. And so I sat down, Bill Sweetman. I had never written a book yet at that point. I had a friend of mine who lived in St. Paul. I lived in Minneapolis. And his name's Bill Sweetman, internationally known aviation writer. He worked for Aviation Week for a number of years, Interavia for a number of years. And now he's with Northrop Grumman in their PR department. So Bill and I sat down and we put together 400 questions in 5 different categories. And we started out with the most basic question. Did Lockheed make it? Yes. Is it black? Yes. We wanted the most generic, easiest questions he can answer. And out of 400 questions, there's only 2 he didn't answer. And one One was, were we going to use F-117s to bomb Libya during Operation El Dorado Canyon? That was, I think, April 15th, 1987. And the answer was yes. They were deployed. They were ready to leave Seymour Johnson, which is in the Carolinas. And at the very, very last minute, it was squashed. The same thing is in '83 when the terrorists blew up the Marine barracks in Beirut. They had a big celebration for about 3 days, and we were going to launch 2 F-117s, which were still in flight test, but we're going to launch 2 F-117s. We had flown them to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, and they were going to leave the following night, fly to Cyprus. They were going to change crew, and then in the middle of the night, they were going to drop 4 2,000-pound bombs on these terrorists, on this terrorist compound. And we probably would have gotten Gaddafi and all the bad guys all at the same spot at the same time. But Caspar Weinberger, who was the Secretary of Defense, stopped it at the last minute. He said, we cannot bomb a sovereign nation without declaring war on that nation. And it was a terrorist. It wasn't the country of Lebanon that they were concerned about. So, but those 2 incidents are the only 2 things he denied to talk about. And what was funny about the manuscript, I had sent it off to Air Force, to the Skunk Works, to Secretary of Defense, and Central Intelligence Agency, saying, you want to review it, be my guest. And they didn't do a thing. So when I came to the Pentagon during the beginning of Desert Shield and Desert Storm, when my security clearance had a flag on it, which means I'm under investigation, I got hold of the Deputy Director for Program Security for Special Projects. His name's Pete Ames. And I called him up and I said, Pete, this is Jim Goodall. Oh, how you doing? He said, you son of a bitch. I said, what are you talking about? I said, you're screwing with my security clearance and I need my the flag removed off my clearance. Well, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, bull, where are you located? And this is before they changed the room numbers at the Pentagon. But he said, I'm in 5D 156. So he's on the 5th floor on the D ring and room 156. So I said, when can we meet? And he said, well, 1300 hours, which is 1 o'clock. I said, okay. So I got there about 10 minutes early. I hit the buzzer on the cipher lock. The door opens up. There's a young lady sitting behind the desk. And I said, I'm Jim Goodall. I'm here to see Pete Ames. And the woman's jaw about bounced off the desk. And for 10 or 15 minutes before Pete was available, I had a parade of guys, primarily guys in uniform or in business suits, walking by, and I could hear him say, and I'm real hard of hearing. He said, "Oh, Goodall's here. You want to see what Goodall looks like in person? Oh my God, Jim Goodall's in here." So then Pete came in. We go into a conference room with another agent. It's the conversation I know is taped. I would love to have gotten a copy of it. And Pete looked at me. He says, "I don't like the questions you're asking." I looked at Pete and I said, "That's my job as an American citizen and an American taxpayer, and you work for me. So these are our airplanes." I said, "Pete, you don't own squat. The bases, the hardware, the airplanes, everything belongs to the American people. We paid for it. You're the custodian of that. And I suggest that you go read the Constitution, because it's we the people, not you the government." And we went on for about 45 minutes, and I'm not giving him any slack, and I'm not afraid of the guy. And Pete's kind of short. And it was getting about 4 o'clock, and I said, no, it was about 3 o'clock. I said, "Pete, are we done?" And this is almost 2 hours worth of talking. And he said, "Well, yeah, I guess so." And he stands up and I stand up and I'm looking down on him. And I said, Pete, you know what pisses you off about me? He said, what's that? And I said, I'm not afraid of you. And his blood pressure went through the ceiling. I mean, it went, and I heard from a friend of mine who works at Joint Chiefs section. He heard they sent Pete home about 15 minutes after our meeting ended because he couldn't get his blood pressure down. Oh. And lo and behold, when I got back to Guard Bureau, the flag was off my security clearance. So it did prove out to be pretty good.
That's a pretty badass story. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, I have never ever played within the lines. I've always played outside the box. I think that's why people who have gotten to know me over the years, people either really like me or they can't stand me. No one has a neutral opinion on Jim Goodall. Nobody. And that's fine with me. I'm who I am. I'm comfortable within my own skin. I like what I do. I'm not supposed to be alive. The day Challenger blew up, I was on the operating room table at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. I was under anesthesia for 11 hours for a 9.5-hour brain surgery.
Wow.
And I told myself if I survived that, I wasn't going to give a crap about anything or anybody unless they were important to me. And that's the way I feel today. You don't like me or someone doesn't like me, I'm not referring to you. But if you don't like me, hey, I don't care. And that's my feeling. I've had little red dots on my chest out in the desert. And are they going to shoot me? I doubt it. There's too much paperwork involved. So it is what it is. I mean, I can go on without you saying anything for the next 4 hours, but my voice is starting to get a little bit crackly here.
I do have a question. Someone asked this multiple times in the chat, and I think he got upset because we weren't answering and left.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But oh no, it's not your fault. But and by the way, if you need to get off because your voice is getting tired, let me know. But Leon the Wise wanted to know about the whole thing with Kennedy and Marilyn, and how Marilyn supposedly Kennedy had supposedly told Marilyn Monroe about UFOs, and she was going to come out about it before she was suicided. Do you know anything about?
Yeah, I worked in Hollywood at the time that she died. Was it? No. I'm very familiar with it because I did work in Hollywood in the 60s. A lot of people that are in the know feel that she was taken out. One, she had relationships with known mafiosos, and the information that both Kennedys, Bobby Kennedy and Jack Kennedy, both divulged a lot of secrets, and they were fearful that she was going to spill the beans. So she conveniently died of an overdose. There's been a lot of people who have died unexpectedly of an overdose when that really never, would have normally not been the case. Were they taken out? Yes. I think Marilyn was taken out because she knew too much. I have to grab a glass of water, just a second. Ta-da! And you have no idea how bad I felt not being able to get this stupid ass computer working right for the first hour. Uh-oh, you're muted. I don't have you. I think I just lost you. Are you back? Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know what happened, but
You're gone again. You're gone. I can't hear you. You were on there for a second, and then you leaned over, and then it quit again. Nope, don't hear you. Well, maybe the bug in my computer ended up in yours. I don't know.
testing.
Oh, okay, you're good. Don't touch anything now.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you just touched something. You went away again. I can't hear you. No, I don't hear anything.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay.
Now sit in your hands. Don't touch anything.
It keeps saying my browser's. I think what we're talking about here is too top secret, and they're trying to shut me down.
Oh.
Because it keeps just saying that my browser lost connection, but maybe I kicked a cord. I'm not really sure, but I don't think I touched anything. You still hear me now though, right?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay, good. Yeah. Man, you just have so many fascinating stories. I don't want to keep you too long here. I don't know if you wanted to talk any longer, or you said that your voice was getting a little tired. So let me know. I'm enjoying your story. So
yeah, I can go on. I can go on and on and on. It's been a weird day for me. One with the computer problems, but I just found my wife just found out that her cancer is back. So that puts a lot of stress on us too. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, she had her last cancer surgery at Mayo Clinic in Phoenix, and they don't get any better than that. I had my brain surgery at Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. So my feeling is, if they can't fix you, no one can. So give it your best shot. So.
Has she done like juicing? Everyone that tells me that the thing with that is juicing is supposedly
she's now
remedy for all that.
I eat anything that even represents food. It doesn't have to be food, but if it's even close to it. She's always been a healthy eater. She doesn't eat any of the junk that I eat. So she doesn't drink. She does a little bit. She's never smoked. I'm a former smoker, at least cigarettes. So we just have to wait and see. The doctors say that she's very, very healthy. They're not rushing to get her down there immediately. Actually, not down there, up there to Phoenix to Mayo Clinic. And the doctors there are absolutely incredible, absolutely. And I can't say enough about them. But it's been a stressful day, and this has been a very, very nice diversion once I got the damn thing working right.
I actually kind of enjoyed like going on for myself for a while there because I was having fun with the audience, and then you came on, so it worked out perfect. And by the time you got on, there was more people watching on the live. So
yeah.
I'm glad I could be a nice diversion from your stressful day, and I hope everything works out okay.
No, yeah. Now, one of my other multiple stories. I mean, I've been interviewing people in person. This is long before the internet was popular. And I had he's just passed away a short time ago. His name is Dave Fruhoff, retired lieutenant colonel. In late 1972, early 73, in a nighttime training mission out of Kadena, Okinawa, that's where the SR-71 Blackbirds were called home. And those who don't know what a Blackbird looks like, that is an SR-71 Blackbird. I don't know if you can see it very well.
It's crazy to me how thin they are.
Well, this thing is it's as long as a 737, and it flies at 90,000 feet, actually 85,000 feet. It did that 50 years ago. Wow. And it goes through the air at 2,150 miles an hour, 60 or 50 years ago. That's Mach 3.2 to Mach 3.4. It's the fastest manned air-breathing airplane that's ever been released to the public. So, but Dave Fruhoff was an SR-71 pilot. He's on a night training mission out of Kadena, Okinawa. He said it was about 11 p.m. in the evening, 2,300 hours. He's going straight and level. He's at about 78,000 feet in altitude, going Mach 2.7, which is about 1,900 miles an hour. And it was the three-quarter moon off to his left side, and he's just going through his checklist. You very rarely look out the cockpit window because when you're moving through the air at 3,400 feet per second, that's 2 miles every 3 seconds. You sneeze, you've gone a half a mile. So you're actually moving faster than a speeding bullet. And all of a sudden he got a glint off something metallic that was probably 6,000 or 7,000 feet above him, and maybe 5 or 6 miles away. And he got on the radio on secure voice, and he contacted Kadena, Okinawa, where they're based out of. Do we have another bird up? In other words, do we have another Blackbird up? They said, no, you're up there by yourself. He said, no, I'm not. I'm going to go take a closer look. It was about that time his backseater said, hey, Dave, we have company. I said, yeah, I know. We're going to take a closer look. So the thing about the Blackbird likes to fly fast. And when you're at speed and altitude, your throttle is all the way back to almost going out of afterburner. You're just at minimum throttle. And as you burn fuel, you climb. So he advanced the throttles to start picking up speed so he can start climbing to get up to a similar altitude of this object. Now he kept getting glints off of it. He said it wasn't smooth, it wasn't round like a saucer we would think of. It had edges to it, and it was metallic. That's what he's getting the glints off the three-quarter moon. So he said when he was about, he figured he was still a couple thousand feet below it and still a mile or so away. Now he can't make out the shape. This is at 11 o'clock at night. He has a lot of lights within the cockpit. He can't see a silhouette, blocking out the stars to get a size or shape of it, but he's still getting the glints. He knows it's there. They know he's there. So as he got close, this thing took off on an angle of attack, about a 30-degree angle of attack. And Dave said he lost track of it between 180 and 200,000 feet. And if he feels it left him at somewhere like 12,000 miles an hour, 8 to 12,000 miles an hour. And back then, you really didn't report UFOs because you'd be declared a kook. So this is the early 70s. He retired from the Air Force in 1980. He got a job at Flight Systems out of Mojave. You've probably been around there. And because of people he knew in the Blackbird program, he was asked if he would want to apply for a position of being the facility manager at Area 51. So he did. He got the job as facility manager at Area 51. And he was there for well over 5 years. But his first 6 months, 8 months, he really didn't ask a lot of questions because they get really spooky if you do. But finally, he started asking around because he knew most of the guys. He said, "Do we have anything that can go Mach 12? Maybe faster." I mean, he talked to people from Lockheed, from Northrop, from Boeing, from Grumman, all of our aerospace industries back in the 1980s. And no one said, "Hey, no, we don't have anything. We'd like to have something, but we don't have anything that comes close." So, because the way he answered that question and why he answered the question the way he did, he lived in Lynchburg, Tennessee, which is the home of Jack Daniels. And my dad was a senior engineer at Arnold Air Force Station, where they have the huge wind tunnel complex. So I was visiting my dad, and I called up Dave and I said, "Hey, I'm in the neighborhood. Can I sit down for an interview?" He said, "Sure, come on down." So it was about 10 miles away. So we sit down, and that's when I asked him, because I initially was talking about crashing a Blackbird. He was a student pilot with one that had a total electrical failure, and he had to punch out. But then I asked him, "Dave, do you believe in UFOs?" And that's when he says, "Yeah, they positively do exist." He said, "You want to explain upon that?" And that's when he did. And the other thing, I gotta get some more water. My voice is giving me hell. Too much weed over the years. Yeah. This is the same subject, but a different person. I was blessed to have a former president and CEO of the Lockheed Skunk Works as a friend. Really a pen pal as much as anything. His name was Ben Rich. Ben Rich replaced Kelly Johnson as the head of the Lockheed Skunk Works. And just before he passed away, in I think it was 96, 97 timeframe, he was dying of esophageal cancer. And I called him up. He was at USC Medical Center there in LA. And I said, "Ben," I said, we were talking about Blackbird, we were talking about spooky programs. And then we sort of got into my friend John Andrews. He passed away earlier than Ben, but Ben just really adored John. And we got to a point about UFOs. And I said, "You sent a letter to John Andrews in June of '86 saying that both you and Kelly," referring to Kelly Johnson, "were firm believers in UFOs, both man-made and extraterrestrial. You said you referred to ours as unfunded opportunities, but then you said, beware, there are charlatans and people who could do you harm." And he stopped for a second. He said, and this is 10 days before he passed away. He said, "Jim, we have things out in the desert." Now, he didn't say Area 51, and he wasn't referring to Area 51. He said, "Jim, we have things out in the desert that's 50 years beyond what you can comprehend. Not what you think you can build in 50 years, but what you," and it was referring to me, Jim Goodall, says, "what you can comprehend. And if you see movies like Star Trek or Star Wars, we've been there, we've done that, or we decided it wasn't worth the effort." So
when he says that, do you feel it means that craft, like physical craft, isn't necessary because they can go interdimensional, or like are they already sending out ships like that out into space? Like, what does that mean?
Ben said, and I'll repeat, if you've seen movies like Star Trek or Star Wars, we've been there, done that, or decided it wasn't worth the effort. Now, when I said, "Ben, will you expand upon that?" he said, "No." And then he died 10 days later. But a couple years before that, he was at UCLA he was a keynote speaker for a group of graduate aeronautical engineers at UCLA. And one of the comments that Ben made, and you can search it, it's searchable on the internet. Ben Rich told this group of aeronautical engineers, Today, we have the ability to take ET home, but our government will not release the technology to the general public.
Wow.
Think about that. We have the ability to take ET home. Now, the closest star system we have is 4 light years away, and that's flying at 186,000 miles per second for 4 years to get there. We have that ability. What else do we have they're not telling us? And maybe they're not telling us because those that are in charge, which may not be the government, may not be the people in charge within the military, it may be the aliens, that have basically said, we're not ready. We're not ready for disclosure. But there's been some indication that it's coming.
Do you think it has to do with the aliens not wanting us to bring however us humans are mentally out, like whatever issues we have, out into space?
I think, and it's only my opinion, and according to opinions are like belly buttons, everybody has one. I can say something else, but I decided I would be politically correct, which is very rare. I think that's the case. We're not in a position to know. They don't think that we could digest that information, and it's not up to us. It's up to somebody else or another entity. But President Trump sent the executive order saying that all federal agencies must release and declassify everything they have on UFOs, unknown aerial phenomena, also called flying saucers. And some stuff has come out. But like you said earlier, a lot of stuff has been redacted. That's old stuff from the 50s and 60s. I think even the 40s, some of the documents I looked at. And I didn't have time to, I didn't want to take the time to look at 15,000 PDF files. So I'll let that to other people.
I'm actually thinking about doing a segment on my show where I go over like one every show, or maybe like one of my show days every week. I will just do that. I'll like go over like one document for like once a week or something.
Yeah, that would be fun.
So many there.
Yeah, and the government agencies have 180 days to get this done. Now I don't know if that's from January 20th. You know, is it from the election? I don't know what the time frame is, but somewhere from mid-May to the end of June should be the time when all that information has to come out.
So Rick Mackey here asks, did you know Bill Tompkins?
I know the name. I know the name, but I don't know the person. I just know of the name.
I don't know much of him either. You have any more wild stories for us?
Oh, I guess I have all sorts of wild stories. One of them, now this is midnight, 1996. Tonopah Test Range has been put into caretaker status. It's been so-called abandoned. And John Lear and I were out there in the desert with our lawn chairs, which is required because there's creepy crawlers at night, better known as scorpions. So what you do is you don't want to sit on the ground. You know, you sit in a lawn chair, you wear long pants, you get duct tape, you tape up your cuffs so nothing crawls up your leg. And we have night vision goggles on. It's about 11 o'clock at night. And we see 3 armored personnel carriers on the south side of the fence. One's coming up directly from the south, one's coming from the east, one's coming from the west. And we also see a vehicle with its lights out coming down on the BLM, which is Bureau of Land Management side of the fence. That's public land. And So I stand up. Now they have their lights turned off. I stand up and I yell out, "Hey, we're good guys. We're taxpayers." And all of a sudden, boom, we have floodlights on us. I have 3 little red dots on my chest. John has 3 little red dots on his chest. Now we don't know if it was a laser pointer or if it was on the end of a gun. About the same time, the truck, the security truck parks behind John's vehicle, walks around. He has his hand on his gun. And of course, we're all being illuminated because we have, floodlights on us. And he said, "You're in a restricted area and I'm ordering you to leave." And I said, "Sir, I don't know who you are, but this is public lands and I don't have to go anywhere." "Yes, you do." And I said, pulled out the official aeronautical map from the United States government, printed by the government. I opened it up and it gives the longitude and latitude to the second of the restricted areas of that particular sectional. And I said, if you look at the base of that fence post over there, you'll find a USGS medallion, and it'll give the longitude and latitude of where we're at. We're on public lands, and I can be here for 15 consecutive days without anybody's permission, let alone yours. He said, "I want to see some ID." I said, "Well, who are you?" "Well, I'm Captain so-and-so with Advanced Security, Inc." I said, "Sir," and I always use sir. I was never derogatory term. Well, kind of smart ass, but not necessarily derogatory. I said, he said, "I'm with Advanced Security, Inc." And I said, "Sir, you're a rent-a-cop. You don't have jurisdiction on this side of the fence." And he's getting pissed. He's getting pissed. And he said, "I've been deputized by the state of Nevada, by Lincoln, Nye, and Esmeralda County to uphold the laws of the federal government and the state of Nevada." And I said, "Good for you." And you can just see his jaws just tightening up and his veins popping out of his head. "I want to see some ID." I said, "Sir, I don't have to show you squat. First of all, I'm not doing anything wrong. And second of all, you don't have the jurisdiction out here. You can't ask me that question." "Yes, I can." And then he's getting kind of testy. So I said, "Hey, tell you what, you show me yours, I'll show you mine." So he hands me his ASI badge. And I look at it and I said, "Sir, that's not a valid form of ID. I need something issued by the state or federal government." And he's getting more pissed by the minute. So he pulls out and hands me his Nevada driver's license. And I didn't have my glasses on. And I'm looking at it. Oh, okay. So I handed it back to him. I lived in Minnesota at the time. I gave him my Minnesota driver's license. John Lear lived in Vegas. He pulls out he still has his feet up on the fence, pulls out his driver's license. I hand it to the guard. He hands it to a guy on the south side of the fence who walks over to the main armored personnel carrier with probably the supervisor in it. He turns the light on and all I heard was, "Oh shit, it's Goodall and Lear." All of a sudden the lights went off, the little red dots disappeared, and I heard on the radio to the guy that was on our side of the fence, you can disperse now. They're not going anywhere." So we never did see anything that night, but it was an interesting night.
Yeah, that was quite the story. Wow.
Yeah.
Where was this again?
Pardon?
Where did that happen again?
At the Fenslon Tonopah Test Range. That was the home of the F-117s. That's probably where some of the other spooky airplanes that are flying today that aren't at Area 51. Now, just to reiterate, in my conversation with Dave Fruhoff, I asked him about underground facilities at Area 51. He said because he was the facility manager and responsible for virtually every single structure, if there had been an underground facility, he would have had to inspect it. But he did say, we have the ability on the other side of the Papoose Range, which is the Nevada test site, we have the ability to dig or cut through a 36-foot diameter hole through solid granite at about a foot an hour. Because they use that for the underground nuclear detonations and when they were building Yucca Mountain. He said, but the other thing you have to take into consideration is when you dig a hole somewhere, there has to be a road going in and out. Even though they've gotten really good at camouflage, there has to be some place where you dump the dirt. There has to be a debris field where you've cleaned out an underground facility. What'd you do with the dirt? So, and there isn't any of that visible. That doesn't mean they're not there, but it's something to think about. And he said there, as much as he was hoping that there was going to be something, an underground facility at Area 51, there wasn't. And it's just a shame. Now, even though he told me this and he backed it up 2 different times a while back, I think after my interview and after me talking about it, he was contacted and he was told to don't comment on that again. So the government's still playing with us, and again, it may be that the government's not in charge. So
I heard that's likely with the underground bases. It's not. It's some extraterrestrials that are in charge, from what I've heard. Now
I have an opportunity. Once this crazy weather we have here clears up, quits raining or storming or whatever, I have an opportunity coming later on this spring to go camp out on an overlook looking over Dulce, New Mexico. And the federal government and the local law enforcement have no jurisdiction where we're going to be. We're going to be on the Navajo Indian Reservation with the chief of police, who is a retired Navajo Supreme Court justice and a friend of Stu Brown, who did the Area 51 article in Popular Science back in the early 90s. So that's one of my projects, assuming I live long enough.
That sounds really cool. I'm excited to hear about that. Someone here asked, I believe it's Cyber Viper asked, Jim, what do you know about the Foo Fighters during World War II?
I don't know anything about it. Sorry. And don't touch your microphone.
I'm trying not to. I'm being a little hungry here, so I'm going to eat one of these Reese's.
Yeah.
I might wrap this up pretty soon here because I actually am starving at this point. But is there anything you want to say to wrap?
No, I apologize for taking so long to get hooked up. Just 1 second. For people who can see it up close and personal, that's the book. It is almost 400 pages thick. And this is my Blackbird stuff section, but I cover 43 different programs, including the X-33 and a few other ones and stuff. So it's my greatest work. I don't know if I have another one in me, but if I do, it'll be on Smoky programs.
Is there a way people can reorder them?
Yeah, you can order them through, probably the best bet is go to Amazon. And if you're Amazon Prime, you don't pay for shipping. This thing weighs over 6 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when I send them out, I'll send them out book rate, but they're the other ones aren't as nearly as heavy. They're 1.5, 2 pounds, but they're all hard. Most of my last 5 or 6 books have all been hardbound books. Prior to that, they were softbound. But you can also go onto eBay if you look at any older books, either Jim Goodall, James Goodall, or James C. Goodall. Any of those 3 will get you somewhere where some of my books are located.
Awesome. Well, it was so great to have you on here. I definitely recommend to all the audience out there to get one of his books. I love the one that I have. It's very, very fascinating.
Good.
And I really enjoyed your stories. I had a lot of fun tonight, so I'm so glad you were able to make it on.
Oh, me too. I was so frustrated that I couldn't get on. I could just scream, but it's working now.
How that feels.
Yeah,
that happens to me before shows all the time.
Right. Well, you have a wonderful evening, and I thoroughly enjoyed our time. I look forward to seeing you at one of the UFO conferences. I know Doc's going to have his thing again this fall.
I will be there. I hope to see you there.
And I'm talking at either the one in Laughlin, or I think the one in Laughlin, or the one in Vegas in June or July.
Oh, you know what? I need to figure out if I can get to that one. I haven't looked into it yet, but I want to see if I can try to get in as a speaker there, or at least sell my spears at it. But either way, I definitely want to try to make it to that one.
Okay, alrighty.
Awesome.
Dear, I got to run. I've had a wonderful evening. I'd be more than happy to do it again. And I look forward to seeing your beautiful face at one of these functions pretty soon.
All right. Thanks so much, Jim. I hope
sure enough. You take care.
You too. Night.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.